Hello and welcome to Recharge Wrestling. We are here to plug you in to the world of professional wrestling. I'm Keeney and I'm joined as always by Fisher and Krusty.
Hi guys. Well, you're sort of joined by me. If you're watching on YouTube, we started this and my video just kept freezing. I don't know
Fisher technical
I've
issue.
tried with camera plugged in. I've tried without camera plugged in, and it won't seem to do it. So at the moment, I'm just gonna. I might try again at some point to go on camera, but at the moment, I'm just. But
I'm sure the fans are absolutely devastated about that. Fisher.
Yeah, and a podcast listeners is fine. So my voice will be fine, but you might not be able to see me. I've gone John Cena.
You have got John Cena. We're going to run through SmackDown and Raw from the last week. But first, we are over to Fisher for some news.
Yeah, well, it's not really a wrestling news segment in the sense of, anything. It's just obviously a tragic accident happened and we lost a wrestler this week, a current active wrestler in Ring of Honor, of course, in Jay Briscoe, someone who's been in Ring of Honor, had the very first match in Ring of Honor on TV 20 years ago. He's only 38, so he must have been 18 when that happened. And he's been in there ever since. He's one of the most decorated people in the history of Ring of Honor. And it's just really sad that he obviously died in a car accident. His daughters are injured in the accident as well, very young girls. So we I hope they recover from their injuries. It's just really, really sad. And yeah, like the wrestling world has been paying tributes to them. A lot of people obviously know them very well. The likes people who have wrestled in Ring of Honor, people like Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Bryan Danielson, all these guys are friends with them. FTR, of course, as well, had a great match of them last year. A lot of people described it as match of the year last year. They were very close to them. So yeah, there's a lot of very upset people in the wrestling community at the moment. So I thought we should just give that a mention before we get on with the review of Raw and SmackDown this week. But yeah, it's just really sad wrestling news.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah.
I know. Should we get into the week in WWE and SmackDown? And I mean, it kicked off with a banger. The Intercontinental Championship match between Gunther and Braun Strowman. What did you guys make of that one?
It was really good, I thought. And I mean, Gunther matches just don't generally miss, do they? But this was one where, like, normally he wrestles smaller guys, or at least, I mean, Sheamus isn't that small, but still, he's not a giant. So it was a bit of a different, he's had classics with people like Tyler Bate in the past and other people of that kind of size. So to see him wrestle sort of someone of that size was a bit different, but it still worked really, really well. I thought it was a really good match.
It was interesting to see Gunther actually looking kind of small against someone here.
Yeah.
Shows how big Strowman actually is. Interestingly, what do you think of Strowman after this match, Keeney? Because I know you've been a little bit wavy on his return.
Yeah, well, I just think his returns lacked direction. And I don't think that really changes here, but I will say this is the best match he's had. Maybe ever, but definitely since his return.
I was going to say it's definitely the best match he's had. But I actually was going to say, I've put in there, is he one of the best returns of the Triple H era? I know it's not had that much direction, but generally, there are lots that haven't worked, in my opinion. There are actually more that probably aren't working than are, for me. So yeah. I would put him not at the top, but nearer the top than a lot of people. I think he's exceeded expectations, and he gets a better reaction as well. I think he gets a better reaction than all of them apart from Bray.
I think he's quite over, to be honest.
When he comes out, he gets a bigger reaction. Other people are having good pushes, for example, but I don't think Damage Control are getting the reactions that Braun Strowman's getting. I don't think Mia Yim, Emma, even Johnny Gargano, they're not getting the reactions Braun Strowman's getting. And in my opinion, they all lack, apart from Damage Control, they've lacked direction as well. I think there's some of it, I mean, it needs to be talked about, really. I'm glad that he's brought a lot of people back, but a lot of them don't seem to have that interesting storylines.
No, he's done the thing that I think we all criticize Tony Khan for a lot, was just bringing people in for the sake of bringing people in. Again, the caveat I'll always bring back is I think he had a very small roster, especially on SmackDown. So I think it did need some bodies there. So I think he had to do something, but I think he probably went a bit too far. But yeah, I think I'm just excited to see what Braun does next, I guess, because outside of Gunter, I don't know what matchups for Braun excite me that we've not seen before.
Yeah.
Like a Bray Wyatt, we've seen that. Like Roman Reigns, we've seen that to death. Like I don't really know where he goes from here. So that's going to be interesting to see his next move. I would predict it will be in the tag division with Ricochet.
I was going to say that.
That's what I think we'll see next. And I guess that's a bit different, although we saw him, as tag champ previously with Nicholas. So
yeah, that was
a similar size person to Ricochet, you could argue.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, interesting, but a great match. And I'm just glad that Gunter's
picking up the win.
Just on a dominant run as champion, just beating everyone. And he's beaten, I think the start of his run was like Ricochet and I think Drew Gulak he beat towards the start, but now he's beating Sheamus and Strowman. Like these are big guys now. So he's on that trajectory, that Bobby Lashley trajectory we saw a couple of years ago. He's on that trajectory, Gunter, and a definite future world champion, I think.
Yeah, he should be. If Triple H, I mean, this is a story for a debate for another day. But if Triple H, retains control of creative, then I think he will be. Obviously, if Vince brings himself back in, which wouldn't be exactly the most surprising news in the world, then things could be very different. But at the moment, yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah. And just moving on, we were talking about returns, and one name we didn't mention was Karrion Kross, who interrupted the Rey Mysterio promo in the ring, and they brawled. They obviously lead into a match, probably at the Rumble. I mean, are you excited about this match? And what do you make of Karrion Kross's return? Because he was someone who was booked terribly under Vince, and now he's come back. It's more akin to what we saw in NXT, I would say.
I don't think he's having enough matches where he's winning is the problem. He's getting a lot of powerful segments and promos, which is sort of, I'm quite a Karrion Kross fan, but this begs the question, is he just an entrance and a promo? That is the concern here. I can't say any matches I can think of where I went, that was great. Not one. So
hopefully Ray can get a good match out of him, though. I think Ray can get a good match out of him.
I'm hoping so. It's kind of that thing, I guess, similar to Bray. You get all these fantastic promos and aura around him, and then the match maybe it just doesn't have enough matches to make him almost a wrestler in a way, which is quite an odd thing to say. In NXT, I found myself a lot more excited by him. I think he was destroying everyone back then.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure on his look either. I'm struggling to get around it. I think he looked a lot more badass with his bald head.
Yeah, I think he needs to shave his head.
Yeah.
I think he's hampered a bit by having that dark persona when he's on the same show as Bray Wyatt, who is just a better version of Karrion Kross. So I think that hampers him. If there was no Bray Wyatt there, he would probably be in a bigger spot. I think, but yeah, I think that potentially hampers him. But I think it'll be a decent match when they get to it.
I think it will be. Ray is fantastic, isn't he? Something I think we need for Karrion Kross if he's really going to get over as a mega heel is he uses TikTok for like times ticking, but I don't think he's ever actually stopped anyone doing anything really. I think he should end someone's career to really get a legend or something.
Ray would be a good person for that, wouldn't he?
Ray would, but you're going to want him surely at WrestleMania.
Of course,
Dom. So
yeah.
Unless Dom gets involved here and causes the loss.
Well, if it's at the Rumble, then obviously it'd be both brands there. They could. I don't think the match will happen at the Rumble. By the way, I think they'll both be in the Rumble. I don't know if they might have even announced it on TV. I can't remember, but I think it might be
I think Ray might have announced he's in the Rumble.
Oh, he has, yeah. He said he's in
the
the Rumble.
But that doesn't mean he can't have another match.
I think the match is happening on TV. I can't see the card's got 5 matches on it already, and I just don't see this match being big enough for them to put it on the Rumble card. I think they'll both be in the Rumble, and Dom will probably be in the Rumble as well.
I guess we could have Ray win the match versus Kross, but then Kross cost Ray the Royal Rumble, like his last chance at a world title shot, I guess, and that could really play into his persona.
Yeah, potentially. I agree with what you were saying, by the way, about his promos. I think this is a good promo here. I think the one thing that makes him different and stands out is the fact he has Scarlett with him.
Yes.
And I was glad that we didn't do a pod last week, but the week before they had Scarlett actually wrestle in a mixed tag match with him as well.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I thought that was a good use, and I want to see more of that. And I want to see maybe Scarlett do a little bit more, because she comes out, she stares at people, and then that's about it, really. I want her to see her actually do something in these feuds as well. I think that would make it more interesting and make it stand out a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. What else from SmackDown? I mean, pardon me. We've got the main event.
Of course,
Sami
that was the
Zayn
big thing, really.
And Kevin Owens with an interesting twist at the end.
I really liked the story of this match. I know DQ finishes aren't what we want to see, but on this occasion, I can forgive this, because you can't really have KO lose, and Sami losing again would also have been a bit lame. And the way they told the story of the Usos coming in,
Roman sort of holding the power over Sami. I think that's what this is displaying, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That he's ordered this, and we're starting this feud. I really don't know where this is going. It's so confusing, isn't it? I guess we'll find out more this week on Raw.
Yeah, I think it can go in one of about 10 different directions, and that's what's great about it. Is it's very hard to predict when or what is going to happen. But yeah, this was interesting, and just Sami's reaction at the end, kind of hesitantly throwing up the finger.
He was
alongside
so annoyed.
Solo. Yeah, he didn't like it, and this is the first time we've seen Sami annoyed with the Bloodline. It's always been the other way around. We've never seen Sami have hesitation the other way, really.
Well, that's why the interesting story is Sami going to walk out on the Bloodline, or the Bloodline going to kick Sami out? Because it's happening eventually, and it's probably going to happen at the Rumble, I'm guessing. But it could go either way here. And there's just little interesting facial expressions from him. And even at the end, I don't know if you spotted it, I saw a picture, a freeze frame kind of on Twitter, where at the end of it, KO's like lying in the ring, and KO is like holding on to Sami's leg, and Sami's just like looking down at him like, I'm sorry, kind of look on his face. And Jay is staring at Sami. Just little subtle bits like that. It's like, it's so good. It's such good storytelling. And the match itself here was actually really good until the DQ as well.
Yeah, again, these two guys don't miss, especially against each other. But yeah, this, we've got on the Raw coming up, we have all of the Bloodline appearing. So I don't know.
All generations, which is interesting.
That is interesting. I don't know.
So I think we're going to get Rikishi. We'll get Afa and Sika, who are, the Wild Samoans.
Okay. I don't know whether they're booked for SmackDown this week or not. I don't know whether.
There's a Roman KO contract signing on SmackDown this week.
Okay. Yeah. So we've got double Roman this week then coming up, which is good.
But yeah, that segment on Raw is going to be very interesting, I reckon. The fact that it said all generations of the Bloodline are there.
I don't want to skip too far to it, but since we're discussing it, do we think they could have The Rock there?
Well, this is the thing. I think everyone's going to be there except The Rock. And then Roman's going to be like, there's only one, because it's an acknowledgement ceremony, right? So my prediction is everyone's there except The Rock. And The Rock's like, and Roman's like, everyone's acknowledged me apart from one person. Where's Dwayne?
I see.
And he's like, is he too busy? And then that's going to set up him coming at the Rumble, either in the Rumble or after the match or whatever. And that's
I'm not going to lie, I'm excited for that.
I mean, it's possible The Rock might be there next week. It's a huge show. It's Raw 30th anniversary. We'll get to it when we get to Raw, but it's loaded. And but yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think we're going to get Rikishi there. We'll get the rest of. We've had the Wild Samoans and that turn up before. Roman's, dad and stuff as well, I think. And yeah, so I think we'll get a lot of the people. Hopefully we might even get like a Naomi return or something. Maybe I'd like to see that, because technically she's married into the family.
That could be awesome. Yeah, that'd be great.
But we'll see. But yeah, let's carry on with SmackDown, because that's jumping ahead a little bit.
Yeah. What else did you have from SmackDown? I think
Bray Wyatt.
Bray
was
Wyatt.
interesting. Another sort of general promo from him, talking about LA Knight. But what was the interesting thing about this one is it was like his old Eat with Worlds gimmick. He had his rocking chair in the ring. He was talking. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said a lot of lines that he used to say back then. And it felt very old school Bray Wyatt, and I enjoyed that. There wasn't a lot else to it, but you know.
Yeah, this kind of felt a bit not out of place. Just nothing Bray Wyatt's done has kind of felt like this. He's felt like a whole new character. With it still being Bray Wyatt, but he hasn't felt like the Eater of Worlds. He's just felt like himself as much as he can. So doing this felt a bit odd. And he didn't. This is old school Bray Wyatt, where he didn't really say anything despite talking a lot. Like do you know what I mean? There's nothing really concrete about what he said. You know, the kind of dark promos that we saw from Aleister Black and stuff as well before, and even in AEW still, but yeah, just a little bit confusing. I mean, this match at the Rumble, the only thing that scares me is it's sponsored. The match, I can't remember what it's sponsored by, like
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew, that scares me a bit. The last time
it's not so much a Mountain Dew, but I just think the pitch black match, like, what are we going to see? It's more that bothers me than the sponsoring. I've got a feeling it's not going to be good, you know. I've just got a feeling. And I want it to be great because it's his first match back.
Yeah.
But I'm a bit concerned. I agree with your concerns.
Yeah, the Mountain Dew thing scares me, that this match is going to end with like a Mountain Dew bottle to the face or something.
Oh, I don't think it's going to be like that. I don't think it's going to be that.
I'm sure
Howdy's going to come out of a Mountain Dew cannon.
Yeah.
I think you could have Uncle Howdy causing Bray to lose here to build up a big feud at Mania.
Yeah.
Because I also am sort of thinking, do we need LA Knight losing this early?
I if I was booking it, I would have LA Knight win this match personally.
Because of big Howdy.
Yeah, Howdy's the feud that we're heading towards, not LA Knight's just and LA Knight can get a win, Bray will move on and not be affected. And I think that's the way to go about it.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting because it's like basically LA Knight kind of described it in an interview with someone. As he said, I don't know that much about the match itself yet, but it sounds like it's going to be kind of a street fight in the dark. So if it's a street fight, it should be entertaining. But it depends. The pitch black bit element scares me a little bit because what are we going to see? Are we just going to hear the match? Because that'll be rubbish. And the crowd there needs to be able to see it, in my opinion, to react to it. So yeah, we need to be able to see. I want it to be dark, but not too dark. Basically, but,
I'm sure I'll be able to see what's going on.
The thing is, due to health and safety, they have to have some form of lighting. So
yeah, it just won't be the main.
It might be a backstage one, a recorded.
Well, yeah,
it could be.
Yeah.
Some of those have been some of the best matches, to be fair, that Bray have had. So maybe not Bray. I remember enjoying the Undertaker, AJ Styles one.
Oh yeah, the Cena Bray one was good,
and that's not too bad for people in the arena if they do it straight after a match. So there's not like a massive wait, and they just get it going instantly. It's not so bad, is it?
No. But it's going to be interesting what we get. But I guess we just wait and see. But there's so much going on with Bray and Uncle Howdy, even being on Raw as well. Seems to be very crossed over at the moment. It's a bit confusing, but I'm sure we'll get there. We'll see more about it, I think, by the Rumble, and we'll know what direction it's heading, hopefully.
Yeah. Probably move on to the women's division now, because I haven't spoken much about that. Charlotte Flair, her first contender appears to be Sonya Deville, which feels very underwhelming. Maybe. I mean, the division,
you need to get her a few wins under the belt, I guess.
Yeah, I guess the division isn't stacked. This is one I would definitely not do at Rumble. I would just do this on TV. But they did brawl backstage, and you know, there's definitely a feud starting here. I'm presuming Charlotte Flair's meant to be a face, although it's not really.
Yes, I think she definitely is.
She is. Okay, I've not been 100% sure yet. But yeah, interesting. I don't know what you guys make of this match that's coming up, but
well, I think their first match, because obviously they've already had a match, didn't they? And it was quite good. And I like Sonya Deville, and I'm glad she's getting put in the spot. But I think they could have built her up better in in the process of getting to this point. But who else is there? Apart from doing Liv again or Raquel.
I think Raquel's going to hold off for a while because they may want her to potentially be champion. I don't know the way they book her.
Yeah. Well, she beat Liv on this show, which was one of the other women's.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. I was surprised how often Liv is taking L's at the moment. She's cutting promos and she's like being serious and she's got a decent character, but she's losing a lot, which is, I don't know, it's a bit annoying. But
yeah, it's hard to know what to do with Liv right now because she's kind of peaked in a way that Money in the Bank pay-per-view, I'd be impressed if she gets a better showing than that she did that night. So yeah, it's hard to know on the come down what you do. I thought she was heading towards the tag team with Tegan, and maybe they still are, but they were separate on this show. So I don't really know what Liv Morgan, like, if if I was booking, I would put her in a tag team because the tag division's weak.
Well, her and Tegan Knox were kind of a team for a bit.
Yeah, that's it. And then they were separate on this show. So I don't know what.
And that was the other women's segment on the show. We might as well talk about that while we're here. It was a random match between, well, not that random, I suppose.
It's pretty random.
It had a bit of a build in sense of.
Oh yeah, Xylee was masked the other week, or hooded.
She did kind of attack her during a match. But yeah, Xylee versus Tegan Knox, which was a very quick match. Tegan got a win, and she's another return they haven't done much with at the moment.
No.
Yeah, but I think that obviously they want to get a few women's matches on the shows to build to the Rumble, because obviously all of these, you've only got 20 odd women on the roster, so they're all going to be in the Rumble. So you have to have some sort of build for people like Tegan Knox and Mia Yim when she was on Raw. People like that, they have to have some wins under their belt, I think, to make it slightly interesting at the Rumble.
Yep, no, that is
because there was a conversation as well backstage. Which led to the Liv and Raquel match where Liv ended up slapping Raquel and they were talking about the Rumble. And Liv sounds like she's entering number one. That's her whole character, is I want to enter number one and win. So I think she's going to be like the Iron Woman of the match. I think she's going to come in one and last till number 30, but she won't win. I think that'll basically, or maybe not be number 30, but like very near the end.
Yeah, towards the end.
And then, Emma and Maxine Dupree were talking about it with her. Even Maxine Dupree might end up in the Rumble. That's how short they are on women.
Never seen her wrestle. She could be good.
Exactly. I don't have a clue, but yeah, it's a bit random, really.
Once actually, I saw some stuff on Twitter. Was like, "Where's Mace?" Have you guys seen this?
Oh yeah, they actually are doing some really good stuff on YouTube with this Maximum Male Model stuff.
Is it on YouTube? Okay. Yeah. I just wondered where that was going because.
So there's a show called Making It Maximum that they're doing on YouTube, and it's like funny content. And yeah, Mace walked out on them last week, so I don't know if that's going to lead to anything.
Okay,
but it's comedy stuff, and they're just not putting it on TV. Which is a bit of a shame, actually, because I think that's the one use of them that you can actually get. They're not going to be, as a gimmick in ring, it doesn't really work. But I think just doing comedy skits and stuff, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
I think we're probably on Raw now, aren't we?
Yes. Yeah. Cody Rhodes is in a Rumble. What do you make of that?
It was obvious. It was like
I've said before. I didn't want them to announce him. No. I know they're trying to drum up views, but I wanted an uncertainty whether he was coming.
Does this change your mind over whether he's winning or not? That they've announced him?
I don't know. Sometimes they're so over obvious.
Cody feels like the obvious winner.
If The Rock's, it's either going to be Cody or The Rock, in my opinion. I'd rather Cody win it because I don't think The Rock needs the Rumble to face Roman. And then you can have two matches. I think you should have two matches. If you're doing The Rock, you should do Rock v Roman on night 2 for the Universal title, and Cody v Roman on night 1 for the WWE title. And that way you can split the titles. Roman can keep the Universal till maybe SummerSlam, and then Cody can have the WWE Championship. That's how I would do it.
Agreed.
I'd have The Rock come out after the Kevin Owens Roman Reigns match. I wouldn't actually have him in the Rumble at all.
I agree.
I'd have Cody win the Rumble. In terms of makes him more or less likely, I'm not sure. It seems almost too obvious he's going to win at this point, but they're pushing it so much, aren't they? Like these video packages.
He'll get the pop, whatever. I just feel it would have been a lot more exciting if he just turned
I
up.
just
and
think,
won.
what if he isn't winning the Rumble? What does Cody do at Mania? And I know we might do a pod on, what people's plans are for Mania. We might try and do that, but I just don't know. Apart from facing Seth again, which I just think is a bit of a waste. I don't think needs to happen. I don't really see what else they're going to do. So, but yeah, I mean, I am excited he's back, and
You've
I get
also
why
got
they're
the
doing
US
it.
title he could potentially go for, but I know he's made it quite clear he wants the main title.
Yeah, and that's the issue with it. It doesn't feel. It's going to feel a bit below par if he just gets the United States title, I think.
And do you think he'll enter early or late?
Early.
Yeah.
I think if he was going to enter like
depends
30,
how
they
fit
would have
he
kept
is.
him a surprise.
That's the problem. If you
Yeah,
want
but I think if he was going to enter like 30, I think they would have just kept it quiet because you want that big pop towards the end. I think he comes in like 3 or 4, something like that.
The only problem with that is if he's not fully fit, because this is a very quick recovery, you could potentially injure him having him in the match that long.
How much wrestling do you actually do in a Rumble?
Yeah,
a lot of the time. I remember Jericho lasting like 1 hour 12 minutes once, and he was on the apron in the corner, lying down for like at least 45 minutes.
That's just so lackluster, though. I almost feel you need Cody to like burst in and just start destroying.
Yeah, I think he will at the start, but then I think it will slow down, and I think that is the way they'll go. I think if he comes in at 30 and they've announced it, then it is a waste of announcing him. So I think we have to wait and see. If they have another big surprise lined up, like if someone massive comes out of 30 that we're not expecting, or 29, like when Edge came out a couple of years ago and they didn't announce it, that's what you want. I think we were kind of all expecting Cody anyway, so I'm not that bothered.
No. So, well, something I suppose that plays into this really, if we start talking about the start of Raw, while the Usos and Solo were out talking about and announcing Raw 30, and then we have the Judgment Day sort of standoff. I love this feud, by the way. I think this is brilliant. 2 powerful heel teams sort of going at it. But the thing that's interesting is they're confirming again, we've already spoke about this, that it is only for the Raw tag team titles.
Yeah.
And
that was another thing that actually happened on SmackDown, because there's a number 1 contenders SmackDown tag titles tournament starting this week as well.
The fact they're splitting these would say to me they're definitely going to split Roman's titles. And
yes.
They're not making too much of a big deal about it.
Well, we don't know that they're going to lose, but I assume the fact that they're doing 2, I think the Judgment Day are going to win here.
It's a big thing on Raw 30 as well, isn't it? To happen, have a title change. I think Judgment Day probably deserve some titles at the moment. I think they could do.
Yeah, I actually think right now Dominic Mysterio is one of the highlights of Monday Night Raw. So right now he's as hot as he's ever been. Strike now, make him maybe have Sami cost him the titles on Monday, and then Sami would do something to as
accidentally, but yeah.
Well, no, maybe it's revenge for well, I guess there's a SmackDown in the middle, but revenge for them messing up his match with KO or something, and we see the first Sami retribution maybe. But I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting, and I'm looking forward. I'd be well happy if Judgment Day were tag champions. I think that would feel really fresh on a tag title situation, which has felt quite stale for about a year.
Yeah, they do. I think they definitely need to split the tag titles, because you can't only have the US title and the Raw Women's title on Raw. I know you've got the women's tag titles as well, but they're not doing anything with those. So I know the Usos go on Raw, but yeah, you need to split them titles. It also gives you more matches at WrestleMania to book as title matches that feel big. Because then if Judgment Day keep them till Mania, for example, I mean, I don't know if they do the Freebird rule, maybe like the New Day used to do, and then anyone could defend them. Because my thinking was obviously Dom would face Ray in some sort of way.
They've got to at Mania. Be mad if they didn't.
So you could make Priest and Balor the tag champs, even though it looks like it's going to be Dom in the match. But you could do Priest and that gives Priest and Balor a big match at Mania, and you could do Priest and Balor be like, I don't know, you could have a multi-man tag match or something with Street Profits, the Alpha Academy, and whoever else. But
they did actually.
Ciampa can return and Gargano by then. Something like that would be really cool.
They did beat the Alpha Academy on this show as well, just in a tag match. And it was kind of confirmation that the Alpha Academy are going face.
How over was Otis?
Yes, I wrote this on my notes. So
That was
Otis,
awesome.
at the moment, the last couple of weeks, I've noticed he's getting really big hot tag reactions.
Yeah.
And I
He
don't
did
know
the
where it's come from.
caterpillar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember he did the caterpillar in one match, and Gable was like, one time only. This is the only time you can do it. And he's done it in like every match since.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
I think they're going face, which I think is actually a good move.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
means hopefully they'll start to pick up some wins. Because
Mhm.
as heels,
Yeah.
they just lose all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a massive fan of the Alpha Academy. I'd love to see them have a face tag team title run. Yeah, they're great. And the match here was good. Obviously, Judgment Day won with Dom getting the pin. I think they're really leaning in on this Dom. I love his promos. Going back to the face off between Judgment Day and the Bloodline, the bit between Solo Sikoa and Rhea Ripley as well was really cool.
Yeah, I thought Rhea was about to body slam him or something.
Yeah, it's like the enforcers of each group, but one's a woman. So I thought it was really cool. I thought it was really cool.
Seriously building Rhea as well here. She out of that group, even though they are fantastic, I think she is the standout.
I mean, we're talking about Royal Rumble odds-on winners. Rhea Ripley for me. I just don't know why you wouldn't have her win the Rumble at this
that'd
point.
Be great.
Like
have her win, and then I'd almost have a you can't really have a destroy Belair, but they can have an absolute belter of a match, can't they?
Yeah, Belair and Ripley at Mania. I mean, I don't know what you do with Becky in that case, but it's going to be.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's either going to be Rhea or Becky. It's going to be one of the two. I wouldn't
think
bother
Becky
doing Becky.
Bailey could go to Mania if you carry it on.
They could do. I think that when they've got a steel cage match on Raw.
Yeah.
Coming up. Which will be a banger.
If you have Bailey get one over on Becky, I think you could go to and have them mess about in the Rumble. I think you could take that to Mania.
Yeah, I think you could potentially elongate that feud if Becky gets some backup, because they keep talking about Becky being on her own in this feud. And I think you could have a tag title feud against Dakota and Thingy as well.
Where's Asuka thinking about it?
Well, she's been doing that weird stuff on Twitter where she's kind of like changing her character. So I reckon
she's still going through that.
I think she's going to return at the Rumble, but she's going to be like a bit different.
A heel, yeah.
Okay.
So that's interesting-ish. That Becky. Let's talk about Becky's promo.
Comes out through the crowd. John
Moxley comes out through
style.
the crowd, which I like. I like her doing. She's done it once before and it worked. And just basically calling Bailey a Karen, which
I thought some of this was a bit rough. This
this Karen back and forth I didn't enjoy. It was so
not once Bailey come out. I thought it was a bit awkward.
Well, like Becky was explaining the joke, like we get the joke. Don't have to like explain it. And it was just a bit awkward between the two of them, where these are two absolute pros. But it was
weird for them. It was like they didn't know what was going on.
This back and forth felt like a NXT back and forth between Sol Ruka and
Karen stuff
Tiffany
felt
Stratton.
very cheap for someone as good as Becky. It was like she had to explain the joke as well. Like, I know that was part of the promo, but it was terrible. I was like, this is awkward. Also, Bailey's shoes were about 5 times too big for her. I don't know if
I didn't notice that.
She couldn't walk, and there was like an inch at the back of her foot. And I thought, because of that, I thought she was going to kick them off and have a little bit of a scrap. But no, they must have just had a bit of a wardrobe malfunction there. But yeah, I did not really enjoy this promo at all. I guess I like the fact that Becky's getting in Bailey's head.
I love the fact she goaded her into
join Becky
cage match. I love that because she's basically like, so you've got no problem with having a match against me, and she was like, no, and then she was like, you got no problem being in a steel cage match with me, and she was like, shit, kind of. I liked that. I liked that bit of it particularly.
Do you think this could? I haven't really thought about this before, but do you think we could have Bailey turn on Damage Control, join Becky, and then potentially have them win the titles?
There was something Bailey said in this promo where she was like, "Oh, I don't need these two." Was basically, and the way she kept saying it, she was like, "Oh yeah, I don't need Io and Dakota," and I was like, "That like, if I'm Io and Dakota, I'm getting a bit annoyed by that." Yeah. I can imagine either them turning on Bailey or the other way around, but I think there could be something in there.
Thing, isn't it? Becky and Bailey versus Damage Control win the tag titles, and then you're in a scenario like Sasha and Sasha Bailey when they carried those titles for so long, and it was actually interesting. And you could have them turn up on NXT and things like that, and just generally make it quite cool on all the brands. They're both amazing talkers and amazing wrestling. You've got a lot you can do there with singles wrestling, tag wrestling, promos. So I could see that maybe happening.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Keeps them away from the main title picture as well, where they don't
I
need
think,
to be at the moment.
I think we're going to get my prediction for tag team match for Mania is Ronda and Shayna. I think that's going to be the tag.
Yeah, that's the other option. Yeah,
I think that's the obvious route to go down. But a cooler route would be that one. I think.
I thought maybe we would have the Ronda Shayna thing first earlier, so then maybe they then basically have a dispute.
I mean, you could have it where Becky and Bayley, this whole thing gets sped up and they win the belts before Mania. Then your Mania match is Becky and Bayley versus Ronda and Shayna.
Yeah,
which is
could do that.
That'd be awesome.
As big a title match as you can get for the women's tag team titles, I would say.
And there's still plenty of time.
Yeah, it could easily happen. Io Sky did wrestle. She lost to Michin, who I think did come out in support of Becky towards the end.
Yes, they had a tag match.
Memory serves them right.
And Candice LeRae here helped Michin get the win. So I think maybe the next tag feud we're talking about tag feuds. I think the next tag team title match we're going to get is Michin and Candice LeRae versus Damage Control as a filler feud, which it just shows the lack of women's tag teams they do have, because they've got no build as a tag team whatsoever, and they're probably going to get a tag team title match.
It just, to me, screams Indy Hartwell call up. I don't understand why that hasn't happened yet.
I know. I don't get it either.
Dexter's there, Johnny, Candice. It just all makes sense.
And Dexter's got no direction now, really. Yeah. Now the Miz feud is over. And
they've even played into the Dexter indie stuff on NXT TV recently. Like, Dexter's come back a few times. So, yeah, to me, that's the direction.
Yeah, it's strange.
In terms of Candice and that. Before we get onto the main event, because that is obviously the big talking point, I want to just talk about where we opened with Solo Sikoa beating Mustafa Ali. This came off the back of that opening promo. And Solo continue being booked strong. Ali in a bit of a weird position where he's kind of angry with Dolph about not tagging with him and costing him a match. And that feels like a very bottom of the card feud. Dolph against Ali.
I like their little their things though. It's kind of interesting. I like it. They're sort of slowly building it. I don't know when the match will just happen more, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's
they might have an interaction in the Rumble or something, maybe. Who knows? I don't want them to keep announcing any more people for the Rumble, so I hope they don't, announce people like that for the Rumble, because you've got to keep some spaces open. That was a massive issue with it last year. I know they've been doing it this year a little bit, but it's not quite got to the point yet where we know every person in it, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that little interaction. But the Solo match was good, and Solo they mentioned he's not lost in a singles match yet, and he keeps getting the push.
Yeah.
If he's in the Rumble, by the way, God, he could go close. I can imagine Roman watching backstage like shitting himself. That Solo's going to win. Like I could see that being a thing, and they can slowly tease that he won't win, but they can tease that Roman's worried, and then that later down the line, you could do that feud maybe, but I could see something like that happening.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I mean, imagine if you had like a last four of like Solo, Sami, Seth, and Cody. That's like all four of those options are amazing for Roman. So, or like The Rock if he enters it. Like there's a lot they can do, as we've mentioned loads of times. A big part of this Raw was the Hurt Business.
Yes, and I love that.
Potential of the Hurt Business.
Interesting.
So I'll just mention a couple of matches we had. We had the Street Profits beat Cedric and Shelton. We had Omos defeat Elias.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while.
And we had the main event. But what do you make of the kind of progression of this Hurt Business storyline with Omos involved and Shelton and Cedric and Lashley MVP?
I like it because they haven't just gone overnight. Here's the Hurt Business again. Like, they haven't done that. They've said that Lashley's like reluctant. He's got issues with it. Obviously Shelton and Cedric are kind of into it, but Omos wasn't in there before. And I think adding Omos into it makes them a really interesting faction.
Yeah.
And if they were up against the Bloodline at some point, I mean,
They'd look legit, wouldn't they?
Yeah, Omos versus Solo as like the enforcers of the group, if you like. Obviously, Lashley v Roman is a massive match, and then Cedric and Shelton versus the Usos would be decent. So, an MVP and Heyman on the mics as well. You can get them involved. Like that could be an absolute fire feud going after like Mania.
Yeah,
maybe. But yeah, I love the way they've slowly built it. You haven't really seen Omos in a while, but I like him. I think him being in a faction is the smartest idea.
Definitely.
Honestly.
It is, yeah. He isn't going to do much as a single star. I think I'm glad actually that MVP didn't forget Omos, because for a while I thought that's what might happen. He just left Omos and moved on. I'm not sure whether the Hurt Business is going to end up with all of these 4 or 5 with MVP in it. I'm not quite sure what the Hurt Business looks like down the line. I would like it to be all 4, but I think we might just get Lashley and Omos and MVP, and not Cedric and Shelton. But
I want them to
be
be
a
in
shame,
because I think they need something. They deserve.
Yeah, no, I agree.
On TV.
I want them to be in there, but they seem way below the rest. Like,
I know, but you can sort of send them out as the fodder, can't you? And then the big boys come in. And
I want
especially
to
if you're
pick
facing
up a few wins.
It depends as well who you've got planned for Mania for Lashley, because there's a lot of talk a while back about Lashley Lesnar 3, and you could in the build up have Omos and Lesnar face off. You can have Lesnar destroy the others, but then and stuff like that. I don't know if that's going to be the match. I don't know if that's the direction, because I've heard of a different match for Lesnar potentially as well. But it's interesting. Depends what you got planned for Mania, I think.
So I think the way we get Lashley into this faction is he loses to Theory, but through some sort of screw, and then he's like, actually, I do need some sort of backup watching my back, because at the moment he's very reluctant, isn't he? I loved that sort of angle though. You thought with them two coming out, they were going to try cost Lashley, but actually they're trying to help him, which was kind of cool. I really like that.
Yeah, but that's the main event. We had the 6-pack challenge, whatever it's called. Or...
it was an elimination
match, which I love these. I love it.
This was
a really good match.
So we had Miz, Ziggler, and this is the order they also went out. So Miz, Ziggler, Finn Balor, Corbin, Seth, and Lashley. And nice to see Miz, Ziggler, and Corbin actually getting a decent match as their main event as well.
Well, what I liked as well is they gave them all like video packages or promos in the night, and they also said that they're all former United States champions.
Yeah.
So it made them feel important, even if they haven't been. Corbin and Ziggler especially haven't really been billed as important on TV recently, but they made them feel important here. And I thought this match was really cool. I loved the bit with Seth and Rollins, like Seth and Dolph, sorry. Facing off and then teaming with each other for a bit.
Yeah.
I like that. I liked the Miz and Dolph bit as well. And then obviously the Hurt Business and Omos involvement. Really good match. It was
great also seeing Seth look very strong throughout.
Yes, because he eliminated like 2 or 3 people, didn't he?
Yeah, I think all eliminations were by Seth and Lashley.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else got a pin in this match. So it was quite, and they were the last 2, and they've been the 2 in the title picture for what feels like a while now. So they felt like the dominant 2, which is probably fair in this scenario.
But at the same time, no one felt really weak. Everyone got their stuff in. Like the Miz nearly got a fall. Like Ziggler did some zigzags.
Yeah, Miz looked strong
kicks,
at first until he got put out
everyone got their stuff in, and even Corbin hit like a deep 6 and some bits and pieces, which was nice to see as well. So I thought this was really, really good and well booked.
Yeah, so we have Lashley and Theory booked for Raw 30. I know we've seen this match quite a few times now, it feels like.
That show next week. I mean, we'll have to review, but that looks. I mean, you've got the legends, which I'm not overly fussed on, but you've got Taker, you've got Flair.
Taker, that's a big one. Taker.
Yeah, Taker. You've got Taker, Flair, the Bella Twins, Farouk, Ron Simmons. Who else you got? HBK, obviously. X-Pac.
The DX guys will be there, won't they?
It's the same old faces. That is the only negative.
It's just going to be a bit of a party.
Teddy Long.
I also think you might get like a big return, like an Edge or a Lesnar next week as well. I can see, and it wouldn't surprise me if you got a Cena or a Rock or someone like that as well. Maybe. I think it's going to be a big show next week, and they've got the steel cage match with Becky and Bailey. You've got, is it 2 title matches? Yeah. Yeah, the tag and the United States.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and then the Roman stuff. So
and the Roman acknowledgement. So that's a lot of segments that are pretty big.
Yeah, it is. Before we finish Raw, there was a couple of other things that happened. We had the brawl between Alexa and Bianca.
Yeah.
And then they saw Uncle Howdy.
Uncle Howdy kind of distracted.
That was quite a cool scene, actually. I quite liked that.
Yeah, so he's now on both shows.
Yeah, which is interesting.
He is the link between Bray and Alexa, because Bray and Alexa have not interacted at all.
No, and they've not really met. I mean, Alexa's mentioned Bray quite a bit, but Bray hasn't even mentioned Alexa, like at all.
No.
So,
but it's interesting they've got this on both shows. And it's still not sure whether Howdy's for or against. I know he did Sister Abigail Bray, but that could mean a number of things. So it's intriguing, definitely. And I wonder whether Uncle Howdy gets revealed at the Rumble in that LA Knight match.
I'd hope so. They need to do something with that.
Don't know whether Alexa and Belair is for the Rumble as well, isn't it? That's
that
Rumble.
is.
Yeah, so they're both at Rumble matches. Maybe Howdy appears in both, or I don't know how it works, but going to be interesting. And Bronson Reed beat Akira Tozawa.
Yeah, and I thought actually that was a really good showing for Bronson Reed for his first match, because when he first come out there, I noticed no one reacted. Everyone was just who's this kind of. I think some people probably didn't know who he was because he hasn't really been on the show much, has he, since he debuted. But the match was so good, and his big tsunami splash thing that he does, and his dives to the outside like cannonballs, and he's got that athleticism as a big man that people are going to be like, wow, what is this? I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but Tozawa did get quite a lot of moves in as well.
Tozawa's been booked better than he ever was, basically, recently. He's actually showing a bit of wrestling rather than just roll up 24/7 and comedy ninja stuff.
It's good for him. And Reed, I thought, looked awesome here. And by the end, like I say, the crowd were into it because he was so good. And I think he should definitely be in the Rumble and get eliminations or something.
That was something I wasn't quite clear on, because Tozawa basically went to Pierce and said he wants to be in the Rumble, and Pierce said, okay, you've got a match tonight for it. So I don't know whether that meant this was a Rumble qualifier.
Well, he said it'll help your case if you win. So it wasn't officially a qualifier, because otherwise I think that would have given the result away, and they didn't want to commit to it. But I think Bronson Reed will be in it regardless. I don't see why you'd bring a big man like that back and not put him in a Royal Rumble match. And I think this Royal Rumble is shaping up. I know we've got a few people announced for it, but the guys that are in it so far, it does feel quite a big match. And then you've got the surprises, the potential people like The Rock being in it. But you've got Cody, you've got Lashley, you've got Ray, you've got Seth, amongst others, that have announced for it. Bronson Reed will probably be in there. I'm sure you're going to get a couple of comebacks. Whereas last year's Rumble very much felt there was too many tag teams and mid-card guys in it. And
I remember us all thinking towards the end, we were like, well, who's that?
I think Strowman
kind of knew who was left.
Yeah, I think Strowman and Gunther are going to be in it as well by what they said. So
I think Gunther is. I think he's on the poster.
Yeah, because he said he wants to go in there and win it. And Theory's in it as well, because he's the United States. So there's quite a lot of big names already announced.
Yeah, you're surely going to get the Seth. I don't know if he is announced, but
Seth is in it. Yeah,
Seth is announced. Yeah.
Obviously, he's going to be in it anyway. But
yeah, cool. Well, I don't think there's anything else from Raw.
No, it was a pretty good week in wrestling, really, and I think this week coming is shaping up to be even better.
We've got big shows coming up this week. This Raw could be huge.
Yeah, and then next week we've got the return to predictions.
Yes.
Which obviously I'll have to be tweeting out soon. Obviously RM Punk won last year. I'm sure he'll want to defend his crown. But
this t-shirt.
yeah, anyone that's not entered before, if you're listening to this, get involved. I think this year we're just going to do WWE.
Just WWE,
because
so
we don't
can,
get as many
keep
interactions
everyone
on
involved.
Yeah, because it seems like when we do NXT or AEW, we get some predictions, but we get like half the people don't bother, and I think they've got no chance of winning if they don't watch the show. So we're just going to keep it to WWE for now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and obviously really looking forward to the Rumble, which I'm sure we'll have a special pod after that. We might try and do something in the build up to the Rumble as well if we get time, but no promises on that front.
Yeah, definitely. We'll try and get something out. If you haven't already followed us on Twitter, find us on there at Recharge Wrestle. Alternatively, if you're not watching this on YouTube already, subscribe on YouTube. Just search Recharge Wrestling. Check us out on all of your podcast platforms. Just search Recharge Wrestling. We're in all of them. And we will see you guys same time next week.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Goodbye.